good day everyone. I'm Sir Kevin Asuncion and welcome to our project management session. In last meeting, we thought about the project cost estimates and controls. No? So pricing, estimates, and cost control. So those are really important in a project. So we move forward to another decision area of a project manager. So we'll be discussing lesson number 16, trade-off analysis, and lesson number 17, risk management. So lesson 16, trade-off analysis in the project environment and the risk management of lesson number 17. Let's start first with the economic principle, the foregone cost. Ano ba ibig sabihin ng foregone cost? It is the value of the next alternative that you did not choose. Again, the foregone value or the foregone cost is the value of the next alternative na hindi mo pinili. Because in a management decision, no, in a management functions, when you make decisions, you will be you will be making decisions and picking the best alternative and leaving other alternatives untouched. Ibig sabihin, pag ating pinili, ating ibili. Halimbawa, maraming nanliligaw sa'yo. So kapag pinili mo yung isa, merong mawawala. Merong hindi mapipili. So that's the idea. Also in project management, there are numbers of alternatives that you can choose from. And then you need to choose from those alternatives and hindi mo na magagamit yung iba. Now, let us study the trade-off analysis in the project environment. No, so the whole environment of a project. Tignan natin how does it weigh. Okay, so what's trade-off analysis first? Trade-off analysis, successful project management is both an art and science and attempts to control corporate resources within the constraints of time, cost, and performance. So we go back with the idea of the constraints and elements of project management. Most projects are unique, one-of-a-kind activities for which there may not have been reasonable standards for forward planning. So, as what I am always saying, every project is unique. That is why we don't suggest exact formulas to this. Okay, so when we make decisions, but at some point we have basis lang, no? We have a basis on the decision making. So again, you need to control the time, the cost, and the performance. Last time we study schedules, the network graphics, and the network schedules or project schedules, and then the costs, no? And then soon we'll be talking about performance. So the time cost performance triangle is the magic combination. You as a project manager should maintain the balance between the three, no? That is continuously pursued by the project manager throughout the life cycle of the project. So if the project were to follow smoothly according to plan, there might not be a need for trade-off analysis, which means kung if everything goes smoothly as planned, you might not need that trade-off analysis because trade-off analysis is used in the actual implementation of the project. Okay, so you are compromising, no, to achieve still the core objective of the project. So let's move forward. So we have different constraint categories of a project. So there are project that only one element is fixed at a time. Ibig sabihin, yung klase ng project na to ay merong iisang fix. So it may either be has a fixed time schedule, no? Or has a fixed costs, no? So planned cost or a fixed performance that we needed, no? The the other two elements of the constraints ay hindi fixed nun. They are variable, so they are moving. No? So, ibig sabihin, dynamic ang klase ng project na yon. Then, number two, we have two elements fixed at a time. So, that means two, there are two fixed categories or constraints. No? And then, the other one is variable. So, take a look at B1. Time and costs are fixed but the performance is not. So most of the case variable talaga ang performance. no? Because it is affected by personal factors as well, no? So B2 naman, fix ang time and performance pero variable yung cost. So saan nangyayari to? So yung funds na nag-a-adjust na yung funds dito. So klase ng project na ma-budget. And then B3 is variable yung time. So hindi ganoon ka-specified yung time. That means fix lang, basta gawin mo to na maayos, no? Regardless of the time. Okay? So also we have three as constraint categories, which all three elements may either be fixed or variable, no? So ito is really established that C1 is all of the time, cost, and performance constraints are fixed. So ibig sabihin strict and stiff ang specifications ng project na to. And we have C2, no, wherein everything is variable. So ito yung pinaka-dynamic. Ibig sabihin time is changing, no? The schedule is changing, the cost is changing as well, and the performance may change. No, and this is a truth, no? And in reality, most of these constraints, no, depending on the type of the organizations ay kadalasan nagiging variable lang lahat. So let's see, no? Okay, so take a look at that. We have three circles there. We have three circles. The first, the big circles, no, the big circle is the time, performance, and cost. That's the constraints of a project, no. And then the inner, a smaller circle there is talks about the inside the performance, the market position, no? And then the profit, no? So those are the objectives, no? And then at the middle core or the core circle there is the resources. So again, the elements there are constraints, no? But also they are important elements of a project. So what do you do? Take a look at those arrows outside those circles. There are what we call forcing factors or contributing factors, no, to adjust the variances of a project. So take a look at that first at the left, that's reliability. That's about the performance, no? The performance. So you need to make adjustments with the reliability. How do you establish reliability? And then the service controls. How do you control those resources? In your response, their corrective actions. So there are forcing factors how to balance them, no? So ibig sabihin nito, they are not equal but they are equitable. Ano yung pinagkaiba ng equal sa equitable? Equal means the factors or the elements are treated at the same level. No, that means kung tatlo yung factors or constraints or elements, no, they correspond to 33 and 33%, no? So 33.33% ang lahat ng tatlo. But in a trade-off forcing factors, you are injecting or you're inserting controlling factors or forces, no, that that may balance, no, to achieve still the objectives of the project, no, kahit hindi sila pare-pareho. So let's say you focus on the cost, no, or yeah, you focus on the cost 50% and then 30% with the performance and 20% with the budget or the schedule among others, no. So that's how it makes equitable, no? So equal means 33%. Um, Equitable means katulad ng isang owner's equity composition. So in a general scenario, hati-hati lahat sila. But in a specific contract ng partnership or a corporation, so they will be divided equitable, no? So let's say ang isang partner 50%, no? The other partner is 30 and the other partner is 20. So ganun ang pagfo-force ng factors, how to balance the project. Okay? So we have methodologies for trade-off analysis. This is any process for managing time, cost, and performance trade-off should emphasize the system's approach to management, by recognizing that even the smallest change in a project or system could easily affect all of the organization systems. No? In reality, no, they are affected by the dynamics of the project environment. No? Especially those dependencies, external dependencies na nabanggit natin dun sa project schedules. No? So, maapektuhan ka pa rin. So, we have 6 steps in making trade-off rules. First is recognize and understand the basis for the project conflicts. Ano yung dahilan or the root of the conflicts within the project? Reviewing the project objectives, baka hindi malinaw. Analyzing the project environment and status, no? Uh, Saan na kayo, no? At ano yung nangyayari? Identifying the alternative courses of action. What can you do, no? And then analyzing and selecting the best alternative. Alin dito ipipiliin mo. Last is you need to revise the project plan. In the past, we have lessons about conflicts. We have lessons about project terminations. No? So you might consider these steps, no, in order to trade off. Okay? So first, the first step is the to recognize and to understand the project's problem or the conflicts na arising. So what are the essential questions to answer, no, in that steps? In that step. Is the information pertinent? Mahalaga ba yung information? Second is the information current. Ngayon ba yung information na yan o luma na, obsolete na ba? Are the data complete? O who has determined that this situation exists? How does he know this information is correct? And if the information is true, what are the implications for the project? Again, you need to screen out what is the conflict, di ba? So kung hindi mo naman kailangan sumagot dun sa conflict na yan, so you need to move forward. That's why you need to know the information, no, if it is pertinent and current, and then you need to know whether it's complete to make a better judgment, no? And to know whether these are correct and what are the root of the situation, why it existed, and then if it is true and what will happen, no, if this is happening. Okay, so what are the reasons why you need to understand and recognize the problem, no, or the conflicts, no? You will understand human errors and failures. Saan nanggagaling yon? You can able to be ready with uncertain problems. What is meant by uncertain problems? Yung mga hindi mo alam kung mangyari. Okay? Pwedeng oo, pwedeng hindi. Unexpected ay hindi mo pinaghahandaan. No, yun yung naman kaibahan nila. Okay? So, yung context nilang magkaiba. Okay? Then, step 2 is you need to review your project objectives. So, you need to go back with all of this. The project of objectives. What do the project needs to achieve? No? And then, project integration into sponsors' objectives and strategic plan. So, not just the project objectives, but the objectives of that project sponsor. Naalala yung lesson na yun, dealing with executives. And then, the statement of work, no? The bounds of the project, the schedule, cost, and performance specification. Ito, mas specific na itong mga objectives na to. No? And then, resources consumed and projected. So, you need to review those objectives. Then, step 3, you need to analyze the project environment and status. No? So, we have different things to know. So, you need to answer this. No? Discuss the project with the project management office. 2, no? Ano yung gagawin mo? No? So, ano ba yung reason why you need to discuss that project to the project management office? You need to determine relative priorities for time, cost, and performance. No? Ayun, yung pinaka-importante sa project. Determine impacts on the firm's profitability and strategic plan, and get a management assessment, even a hunch as what the problems are. Okay, at least meron silang idea of the situation. Then next, if the project is a contract with an outside customer, meet with the project customer's project manager, no, to assess his views relative to project status and assess the customer. So as you know, the project environment, no. So at the other hand, ano yung tingin nila, no? Then meet with the functional managers to determine their view on the problem and gain the insights regarding their commitment to a successful project. Okay? So where does this project seen in their priority list? That's the essential question there. No? So ano yung tingin nila? Because functional managers are the people, no, within that functional line. No? And then review in detail the status of the each project work package. Obtain a clear and detailed appraisal by the responsible project office personnel, such as when to complete, that's the time to complete, cost to complete, how much they need, and work to complete, the labor requirements. So time is the schedule, cost is the budget or the financial resources, work is the human resources. Okay, so you need to review the details of the status. Okay, and then review past data to assess credibility of the cost and schedule information in the previous step. Okay, so now you need to identify alternative courses of action. So while you are able to know the problems, no, you need to see the environment. So you need to make alternatives to make courses of action. So in the constraints of time or the element of time, no, you need to answer these questions. Is a time delay acceptable to the customer? Kasi nagte-trade off ka eh. So kung hindi pwede time delay, so ano yung gagawin mo? You will be adjusting with the cost. Magpapaano ka, di ba? Magpapa overtime ka or you'll be putting extra technical resources, no? That will be a case. So will the time delay change the completion date for the other projects and the other customers, no? So within the performance yan, what is the cost for the time delay? Can resources be recommitted to meet the new schedule? What will be the cost for the new schedule? And among others, the change in your actions from your alternatives affects other factors. Okay? And then, yun nga, if you need to identify alternative courses of actions for the cost. So you need to answer this. What is causing the cost overruns? No? So, adjust ka. If you remember our lesson in the past, the cost. No? Uh, ano yung dahilan? Ay, marami tayo overtime. O kaya, ay, masyado tayong maraming empleyado. Okay? What can be done to reduce remaining costs? Will the customer accept an additional charge? Should we absorb the extra cost? These are essential questions, no? To know at mabalance mo yung mga sagot dun sa tatlong categories or constraints, no? Then the funding or the budget. Will there be any net value gains for the increase in funding, no? So kung magdadagdag ka ng investment dyan, what will be the results? Is the only way to satisfy performance, no? Syempre andun yung machineries and labor, no? Will this hurt our company's ability to procure future contracts? Baka naman wala ka ng pambili. So that's in a financial management aspect. And is this the only way to maintain the schedule? No? So titingnan mo yan, ibabalance mo rin yan. Okay? And the performance, no? Can the original specifications be met? No? Kung nagmamadali, kung may mga adjustment. If not, at what cost can we guarantee compliance? No? Are these specifications negotiable? What are the advantages? So, these alternatives talks about all of the specification and the performance, no, of the project, the quality of the project. No? So, after knowing those alternatives, no, syempre, pipili ka na alternatives, no, sasagutin mo yung mga tanong na yon, and then, you'll be compromising one factor, no, you'll be compromising one factor over the other, no? So you analyze and choose the best alternative to them. So we have steps, no? So the first step is to prepare a formal project update reports including alternative work scopes, schedules, and costs to achieve, no? Because you're studying cost as well, no, you need to know the minimum cost overrun, conformance to project objectives, the performance, and also the minimum schedule overrun. No? You are running out of time. No? So you need to know the update of the reports regarding those work specifications. Now then next, construct a design tree including cost, work objectives, and schedules, and the estimated of the probability of success for each condition leading to decision point. No? Will you
will you compromise cost over time or performance? Depende yan. No? Depende sa organization, the objectives, and the likes. Present to internal and external project management the several alternatives along with the estimate of success probability. And with the management agreement, select the appropriate completion strategy and begin implementation. That these assume that management does not insist on impossible tasks. So nakikita nyo ngayon, no, yung scope ng project and what is happening, no? Uh, and then you'll be choosing the best alternative, no, before compromising them. Okay? So the last item requires further clarification. So ano 'yon, yung with the management agreement, select the appropriate strategy, no? So many companies use a checklist to establish the criteria for alternative evaluation as well as for assessment of potential future problem. The following questions may be part of such checklist. Okay. So within your decision, will be other projects affected? Will rework be required in previous task? Ulitin nyo ba? That's within the performance or the quality. Are repair and maintenance made more difficult? No? Kung sa performance nga din to. Will additional tasks be required in the future? How will project personnel react? What is the effect of the project life cycle? Will the project flexibility be reduced? No? That is critical path method. No? What is the effect of the key employees? No? Human resource naman to. And then what is the effect to the customer? Okay? So, what are the corrective actions on weighing the alternatives? So, ano yung pwede mong gawin, no, to balance that? So, you may either do overtime or double shift, no? Double shift, dalawa yung shifts niya. Expediting o pagpapabilis. Again, this will compromise performance. Might be, no? Might be compromising performance. Additional manpower, ito naman, it will entail cost, no? Spend more money, funding, change of vendors, or change of specifications. No, hindi na kaya to. So, ganyan na lang. Okay? Shift of project resources, waiving equipment inspections. So, yun. Isa sa mga problema yun sa alternative. Sa maintenance, no? Change in the statement of work. No? Ito yung expected. So, pwede mong palitan na because of the bounds of those scope. No? Kasi you'll be trading off. No? Substitution of equipment. The most ideal way actually is to be with the scopes of the project. However, being realistic, it allows you to trade off those characteristics or those elements, di ba? So you need to make those corrective actions while weighing them. Okay? And lastly, within the steps, no, on trade-off, you revise the project plan. The top management normally makes decisions based on the following. So, different policies on quality, integrity, and image. No, baka magbago because of the bounds of the project. The ability to develop a long-term client relationship. Are you willing to give up that customer? Type of project, just such as the research and development. So, baka next time, wag na. No? Size and complexity of the project. So, you need to establish now the what projects will you accept. Then company's cash flow, bottom line return on investment, competitive risk, technical risk, and impact on affiliated organization. So that those are the things that you need to assess after those situation. You need to revise a project plan. Okay? So that's the end of lesson 16. So again, in Kapampangan, I'll be summarizing that lesson 16. Pag atin pinili, atin ibili. No? That's the economic principle of opportunity cost or the foregone cost. No? That's the idea. That's the idea of the trade-off analysis. Okay? So, we proceed to lesson number 17. And lesson number 17 also is a follow-up lesson for trade-off analysis. No? In a business environment, in a project, even in life, things are uncertain. Kahit sobrang nagpaplano ka na, no? Sobrang nagpaplano ka na, pero sa implementation, the actual things may differ, no? So, paano ko nasabi, no? Example na lang natin. It's really ideal yung social amelioration program to be distributed, no, sa sa mga tao, especially within this pandemic. But you might be thinking about it, bakit nagkakaroon ng maraming problema? It's because of the risks and uncertainties. Ang dami kasing bounds, constraints, no? Ay, bawal magtipon-tipon. Ay, sobrang pagod na yung mga tao. Malaki kasing pera yan, no? So that's those are the factors affecting, no? And it involves risks, no? Will you pursue, no? Will you pursue that? So you need to think of measures, no, to eliminate those risks, no? So the main objective of project management and even the project manager is to eliminate or to averse risks. Ano ibig sabihin ng aversion ng risk? Risk aversion means getting the most out of the risk. Ibig sabihin, no? Um, Susugal ka pero siguraduhin mong makakakuha ka dyan. No? So you need to weigh alternatives also here. So let's start. What's the definition of risk? Risk is a measure of the probability and consequence of not achieving a defined project goal. Most people agree that risk involves the notion of uncertainty. No? Again, risk has two primary components for a given event. Now, these are the two truths in a risk. A probability or the likelihood of occurrence of that event. No? So that means likelihood pwede mangyari. And then also in the risk, it involves the impact of the event occurring. So it also ano mangyayari kapag ito yung nangyari? What will happen? No? What's the impact, no? Kapag nangyari ito, or amount at stakes, or resources at stake, no? So ganito kasi yan. Kapag ikaw ay sumusugal, kapag sumugal ka ng piso, pwedeng tatamaan mo piso, di ba? Pero pag tinaya mo 1,000,000, tatamaan mo 1,000,000. Pero kapag nawala yung piso, hindi mo masyadong mararamdaman. Pero nawala yung 1,000,000, mangaga ka, be. Di ba? So, ganun yung ganun definition ng risk. So, it involves the occurrence, the probability of the thing that might happen, and also the what is at stake when you do that, and then when it happened. Okay? So, let's move forward. So, take a look at that. We have different levels of risk. At the y-axis, no, you can see the event and the probability of the things might happen. So low probability and high probability from bottom to top. And then that's the probability of loss. And then at the x-axis, kung makikita ninyo, the magnitude of impact of that thing might happen, no? So it starts from no impact to the large impact. So take a look at the idea, no? Makikita nyo dito that there's a low risk. Low risk if, no? There's a low risk if things, no? If things happen here. Look at this. Uh, if there's low probability that thing might happen, no? Of the event, and there's no impact if this happen, it's a low risk, no? It lies on a low risk category, no? Okay, but what if, no? What if ito high probability pero low impact? Yan, no? So there's what we call a moderate risk here, no? So kung low impact siya or high probability, moderate risk, no? Or low probability and large impact, or large impact, it's a moderate risk, no? Moderate risk siya, no? But if this has a high probability, no? High probability, and then large impact, ito yon. Large impact, high probability, ito yan. High risk ka. Ibig sabihin, that event will really significantly impact the organization. No? So kapag tumaya ka ng piso at piso lang ang mawawala sa iyo, natalo ka, no? Low impact siya, no? Probability of loss, yes or no? No? Yes or no? That's low risk, no? Low risk 'yan, no? Pero pag ito, tumaya ka ng 1,000,000, high probability pa rin kasi kung Karaw Cruz lang yung tinayan mo, no? At tatama ka ng 1,000,000, high probability but also large impact. That might be a moderate risk, no? But if tumaya ka ng 1,000,000, tatama ng 10,000,000 pero ang chance mo lang na na manalo is 10%, no? That's a high risk. Ibig sabihin, sinusugal mo dun sa lesser yung kasiguraduhan. Okay? So, that's the idea there. No? Parang sa pag-ibig, di ba? You're risking it all. That's high risk. No? Kapag sobrang mahal mo yung tao. Okay. So, as a project manager, you should know how to tolerate risk. But there are no single book, textbook answering on how to manage risk. Kasi iba't ibang levels yan, iba't ibang priorities, no? Uh, iba't ibang priorities dito sa tolerating the risk, no? What factors may you tolerate? Okay? So, schedule performance monitoring, no? Sorry. Uh, you need to know first pala the earned value of that decision. So, this uses standard cost schedule data to evaluate a program's cost performance, no? And then the program metric, so yung performance review ng ng project mo, no? Schedule performance if you will be achieving it, no? And then technical performance measurement is the product design assessment that estimates through engineering analysis. So it's also talks about the performance. Okay? So uh, that's the end of our lesson, and you need to monitor, no? You need to monitor the project risk. By the way, meron pa pala. Sorry. Okay, napindot lang pala siya. Okay, so you need to tolerate the risk. And there are classification of risk tolerance. There's what you call a risk averter. So you look at that. The utility as the y-axis and the impact in the cost, no? Uh, at the x-axis. So, diagram 1, yung nasa left, is a risk averter. Ibig sabihin, maximize na yung risk. No? And then, risk neutral, ibig sabihin, balance yung utility. Ano yung satisfaction mo dyan? No? Kasi merong mga tao na risk seeker, no? Na tumataas yung level nung utility or satisfaction sa kanya kung nakakapagbalik yan ng mas mataas dun sa isang tawag dito, dun sa decision niya, na it pays back, kumbaga. Okay? So, what's risk management? Risk management is the act or practice of dealing with risk. So, it includes planning for risk, assessing or identifying and analyzing risk issues, developing risk handling strategies, and monitoring risk to determine how they change. No? So, kasi in a project, there's certainty, risk, and uncertainty. Ibig sabihin ito, there are probabilities that thing might happen, and there are probabilities that a thing might not happen. And also, the impact, no? Whether it's high or low, that the thing might affect the project or the decision. So, the decision making falls into 3 categories: that's certainty, risk, and uncertainty. Decision making under certainty is the easiest case to work with, no? With the certainty, we assume that all the necessary information is available. So, for you to be able to know the certainty of your decision, of course, it's really important that you have complete complete information, so as it will give you confidence. That is why in many in decision making models, they do that what they call uh, margin for errors, no? Margin for errors para hindi nila makontrol nila yung risk ng decision. Okay? So, uh, what are the features on controlling that payoff matrix? No? So, regardless of which state the nature exists, there will be one dominant strategy that will produce larger gains or smaller losses. Now, that's what we call risk aversion. No? So, there are no probabilities assigned to each state of nature. So, this could also be stated that each state of nature has an equal likelihood of occurring. So, pwede lahat mangyari. So, that's hindi a certainty. No? So, that is why you need to plan. And you need to gather information for this. So, risk planning is a detailed formulation of a program of actions for the management of risk. So, it is the process to develop and document organized, comprehensive, and interactive risk management strategy, determine the methods to be used to execute a program risk management strategy, and plan for adequate resources. Pinaghahandaan mo yung pwedeng mangyari. Parang ganito, no? Wala kang pera, no? Or hindi sapat yung pera mo, no? Tapos, COVID might happen, no? COVID might infect you and your family. So what will you do? How will you manage the risk? No? Siyempre hindi ka lalabas, 'di ba? Hindi ka lalabas ng bahay. Pero pag hindi ka lumabas ng bahay, wala ka nang kita. Hindi mo naman pwedeng hayaan 'yon. So, the cost, performance, and the schedule elements are present here. No? Kaso, kailangan mo gumambol eh. Kaso kapag gumambol ka, pwedeng magka-COVID ka at worst is, maapektuhan mo yung pamilya mo. No? Hindi lang ikaw. So, what will you do now? No? Ito yung ginagawa ng natin, national government natin. They're doing aversions, no, and risk planning, pero I just don't know with the implementation. Now, that's their model. So, they are at the middle of the situation, no? Na they are at the middle of that performance ng objectives to keep the economy going because marami na naghihirap at to control the virus at the same time. No? Buhay o kabuhayan, yun nga yung challenge. No? So, anong gagawin mo kung ikaw? So, there's a tool there kung ikaw ay talagang nahihirapan, no? Na get a COVID insurance, no? Kung tamaan ka man. Siyempre, ikaw ang breadwinner, no? So, that's how many of the, kumbaga, meron tayong control mechanism. Ito yung lagi sinasabi ko sa inyo. We need to control the risk, we need to control our decisions and our implementations. So, halimbawa, kung ikaw ay magkasakit, merong sasalo sa gastos at hindi na maapektuhan yung pamilya mo. No? So, also, I encourage you to get your insurance as early stage as you can kung meron naman kayo. No? So, para sa mga meron, para naman sa wala, pangarapin ninyo. No? Okay? So, risk planning is iterative. Ibig sabihin, pwedeng i-adjust and includes the entire risk management process with activities to assess or identify and analyze, handle and monitor, and document the risk associated with the program and your decisions. Okay, risk planning develops a risk management strategy which include both the process and implementation approach. No? So, yun yung ginagawa, yung risk planning or risk management. No? And then, your risk assessment naman is before you plan, you need to know what will happen, might happen. So, risk assessment is a problem definition stage of risk management. No? The stage that identifies and analyzes program issues in terms of profitability and consequences. So, what will happen? No? Ito rin papasok yung trade-off analysis. And after you assess that, you identify those risks, especially those you need to put into focus. So, risk identification. At some degree of risk always exists in a project. No? Either it might be technical, on the test, on the logistics, the production, and engineering areas. Project risks include cost, funding, schedule, contract relationships, and political risks. Cost and schedule risk are often so fundamental to project that may be treated as standalone risk categories. And we have these common practices to classify risks. We have an objective sources and we have subjective sources. So we are classifying risk in terms of objective sources such as recorded experience from past projects and current project as it proceeds. Ibig sabihin, lesson learned, no? Ito nangyari dati. So, you can have that basis to classify that risk. Program documentation evaluation, and then current performance data can determine risks. Also, subjective sources that includes experiences based upon knowledge of experts. So, you're getting interviews and other data from the subject matter or experts. So, from secondary data such as articles posted, no, or published. And then we also have risks according to project life cycle. We have different risks that we can identify through systems engineering documentation. So a problem with the process or the development of the product or project. Life cycle cost analysis. The plan or the work breakdown schedule decomposition. No? So you can see the risk there. Schedule analysis or the PERT, no, or the network um, graphics, no, or project graphics, and the baseline costs estimate, no. So after planning, assessment, and identification, no, what more can you do as management function is to monitor the risk. So monitoring the risk process systematically tracks and evaluate the effectiveness of risk handling actions, establish the matrix. Monitoring results may also provide a basis for developing additional risk handling strategies. No, yung pagpapalit ng ECQ and ECQ, that's risk monitoring po. No? So, hindi po ako pabor dun sa decisions ng IATF, pero I am just telling, no, how do they handle the project, no? How do they handle this system, no? Okay, so these are the techniques as I've discussed earlier. Kumbaga na forward lang yung discussion natin. Okay, so that's it for today for the trade-off analysis and the uh, risk management session for your project management. I hope that you enjoyed as much as I did. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you on to the next one. God bless.